Well, we're going to talk about a really interesting development for psychology, and once again, when we look at human beings, this is it's a major factor. And what we're going to look at is stress. So, stress, by definition, when we talk about stress, when we look at it in the dictionary, and it talks about stress in addition to human stress. Stress is the amount of pressure put on something. So we could have the amount of stress on a piece of metal. Okay, we could have the amount of stress that causes it to bend. So stress is the amount of pressure put on something. Well, we actually put stress in our body. Let me give you the psychology definition for stress. Stress is a response to a stimulus. Okay, response to a stimulus that exceeds its ability to cope. Okay, so once again, the psychology definition for stress is a response to a stimulus that exceeds its ability to cope. So once again, it's a certain amount of pressure that we put on ourselves, okay, because of a particular stimulus. Remember, a stimulus, we have a stimulus and a response. Stimulus is something that comes into, it's detected by our bodies and then sent to our brain and then processed. And then we have to be able to cope with it and deal with it and respond to it. So when is it stress? When it exceeds our ability to cope with it. So let's think about this, okay? Let's think about this. Stress is something that we take on that is a stimulus that exceeds our ability to cope with it. Now, is it possible that stress can come for a little bit, put a little stress just like on a piece of metal, and then all of a sudden we figure it out and then it's no longer stress? And that's exactly what we're talking about, because in psychology that's what happens. Now, it's interesting because stress isn't all bad. We hear the word stress and we're like, oh, that's awful. You know, that's terrible. Well, stress isn't all bad. As a matter of fact, stress is a natural mechanism within our system. It actually sharpens your wits or your intellectual thinking and improves your abilities. So stress can actually sharpen your wits. Okay, what do we mean by wits? When we say wits, that's your quickness of thinking and your reasoning, and improve your abilities, improve your ability for a lot of things. Let's talk some more about stress in general. Okay, stress is caused by a stimuli. We call that stimuli a stressor. Okay, so a stressor, S-T-R-E-S-S-O-R, is a stimulus that places a demand on an organism for some kind of adaptive response. Okay, so once again, let's just define, put in your notes, be sure you understand this. What is a stressor? A stressor is a stimulus. A stimulus is something that the body picks up. Something has happened that sends a message to the body, hey, we got a stressor here, okay, that places a demand on an organism, okay, on a human being, for some kind of adaptive behavior. So when we have a stressor, then we've got to respond. Okay, our body's going to respond somehow, some way. It says something in there is causing stress. Now, so let's look at how it can help us. All right. So here we are. We're driving in a car. Okay, and we're driving in a neighborhood, and all of a sudden a kid on a bicycle swerves out in front of us. Okay, this kid swerves out in front of us. Immediately, it's not just a problem, it's not just an emergency, it's a stressor. It's a stress point to where all of a sudden, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit, about all the body responses to stress, okay, all right, but all of a sudden it allows us to increase our thinking and our reaction skills and our quickness, and it improves our ability to be able to see, to hear, and to be able to stop the car or whatever we need to do. So all of a sudden something happens, and all of a sudden it's a stressor, and boom, immediately the body kicks into gear. It's for protection. It's for protection. So a lot of times a stressor, coaching, kids used to say, man, I'm really stressed out about this game or this play or whatever. And I say, well, stress isn't all bad. You just need to, those butterflies in your stomach and all that. You just need to get those in line. Get your butterflies in formation. Stress can actually improve your ability to do different things. The problem is, here's the problem, and we're going to talk more about this as we go. The problem with stress is that stress is a short-term, a stressor is a short-term reaction. It's that kid on that bike, okay? It's, I hate to use this example. I've used this in the past, but it seems like nowadays so many people, there's so many places somebody comes in with a gun, but somebody comes in with a gun, automatically it's a stressor, and so you begin to think, what do I do? How do I hide? What do I do? Do I attack this person, or what do I do? And once again, it's the whole adrenaline thing too. It's that fight or flight. Stress turns that on immediately. Okay, so we have this stressor, so we're trying to decide what to do. But what is a stressor? It's a short-term thing. But why is stress a problem? Stress is a problem because we keep that stress for a long period of time. Okay, stress is meant to be a short, millisecond, 1 minute. It's like a quick reaction. Oh my gosh, this has happened. What do I do? But in today's society, we're not running from bears. We're not running from lions. We're not having to go out and hunt. We don't have this immediate deal. We're not in a car wreck very often, I hope. Okay, but what happens is we have stressors in our life now that are allowing us to have all the situations of stress, not temporarily, and not the ones that just improve your ability for all your senses to be able to be super reactive. We take a stressor, and what we do sometimes is we hang on to that stressor to the point to where we may have that stressor for even days. Well, that's a problem, because stress over a long period of time causes these body functions to be able to operate and to change, but they're designed to be temporary. When they're long term, then stress becomes a real problem. So let's keep moving here. Okay, we'll talk about some examples here in a little bit. So there's 3 types of stressors. Okay, once again, we're talking about a stressor. A stimulus that places a demand on an organism for some kind of adaptive response. So we have to adapt to something. We've got to change something because something's happening. Okay, so there's 3 types of those stressors. Number 1 is environmental. Something in our environment. Okay, something in our environment. For example, if there was a gas leak and all of a sudden you sense something, there's a stressor, you'd be like, oh, and your sense of smell would be super strong, and you'd be like, what do I have to do? There's a, even in our environment, we could even sound a tornado whistle, okay? And there's a really cool psychology experiment about people that were in a normal neighborhood, and they sounded the tornado siren, and people right away, it's like, that became a stressor. So even though there wasn't a tornado in the air, that was a dirty trick, wasn't it? Even though there wasn't a tornado in the area, they could watch people respond to the thought of a tornado and how it became a stressor and what they did. Okay. Now, so once again, the 3 types of stressors are environmental, and then the second one is psychological, so things in our mind. Okay. Now, remember that stressors, okay, now this, I've got to stress this about stressors, okay? All right. Stressors are made to be short-term. When we deal with stress, it's a quick response. Well, what if, in environmental, we usually can make that a quick response. Something's happening in our environment, we've got to adapt. We've got to either move, we got to run, we got to go here, we got to protect ourselves, we got to lock a door, whatever it is. It's usually a quick adaptation. And once we've done that, then the stressor goes away, and then our brain continues to think, okay, what do I need to do? But you're not under stress. Okay, you might be trying to solve the problem, but the stress is not kicking in all the body responses that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But psychological stress, that's different. Okay. Psychological means that it's in your mind. Wow. So it could be a real stressor, okay? It could be a real stressor. But being in your mind, okay, until you solve the problem and your mind says, done, you're safe, check that off, okay, then that's a psychological stressor. And the problem is we take these psychological stressors and sometimes we keep those for not only hours or days, but months and years. That's when stress really begins to cause psychological problems in our body. Remember, psychological is with the mind. Physiological is with the body. So the third type of stressor is social. Now, this is where, in today's world, this is where we really run into a problem. Because, remember, there's three types of stressors. Number one is environmental. Something with environment we can usually deal with and be done. It's a quick. It increases our wits, it increases our ability, and we solve the problem and we're done. Psychological is in our mind. Okay? A little trickier, stays in there. But this is the one where we experience today, where we experience stress and we say, man, I'm so stressed out and I don't know what to do. That's social. Social is interaction with other people. So if somebody comes up and they threaten me and they say, man, you know, I'm going to fight you or whatever, well, then that's easy to deal with. We're like, okay, we're either going to fight or run or do something and it's done. But what if somebody just says something, okay? Somebody says something mean to you or something that degrades your character, or they have an argument with you, then you deal with that stress. But the problem is, until you solve it, you continue to have the stress. So what's your body? We're going to talk about, once again, the body responses here in the next video, but we're all ready to go, and our heart rate's increased, and we're going to talk about all the different things that happens to the body during stress. So when it's social stress, we have to be really careful, because if it's long term, remember, stress is designed in your body to be a short term, like sometimes even a millisecond. Kid rides out in front of you on a bicycle. You have to stop really quick. That's a stressor. But social stressors are really a problem because they continue on, and sometimes we don't get the answer to those. Okay? So we have three types of stressors: environmental, psychological, and social. Then there's four possible reactions to the stress. Okay? 4 possible reactions. All right? So first of all, we have physiological. That's the body. Okay? Physiological. For example, what is our body doing during the stress? Okay? Well, we might have trouble sleeping. We might have insomnia. That's a physical reaction to stress. We're going to talk about ulcers here in a little bit. We used to think that ulcers were really related to stress. Ulcers is when your stomach acid secretes extra inside your stomach and causes too much acid in the stomach, and it actually eats little holes in the stomach, causing ulcers. And if you take human anatomy, some of you already have, we teach that as well, but an ulcer is actually a hole or actually penetration into some type of tissue. So we have physiological. Then we have behavior, okay? We have behavior. So when we see something in our behavior, we might actually, even longer hours at work can be a behavior thing because we feel like we're not getting something done or some type of stress. Then we have emotional, okay? An example of emotional, we might have trouble controlling our anger. The stress may result in anger. And cognitive is another possible reaction to stress, and that's where we might have a racing mind that's just thinking about all these things going on, and we just can't focus. So there's 4 possible reactions to stress: physiological, behavioral, emotional, and cognitive. And in the next video, we're going to talk about body responses that actually happen during stress. So I'll see you at the next. Don't stress out, but I'll see you at the next one.